My name is Tori Smith, and I would like to do a report for My Lab Child Trafficking, the operation that's being run by DARPA and the CIA for Indianapolis, Indiana, and this was on Friday, and I believe the date was April 15th. And on Friday the April 15th, 421 children were brought into the United States to be gang raped and murdered. And this is a really horrific situation, and I've been doing everything I can to bring awareness to this so that it could be closed down. That's my dream, is to have this child trafficking operation completely closed down. I was abducted to 14 My Labs. I was exposed to the child trafficking division of My Labs at the Arlington, Virginia location, where while I was being raped, they murdered 54 children in the room. And another time, while I was being raped, they murdered 16 children in the room. Okay, of these 421 children that were brought in on Friday, 21 of them were brought to Indianapolis. These 21 children were gang raped by a group of 117 males, and also one female was present. These 117 males raped these children a total of 367 times. A group of 21 children raped 367 times. And the female was from the Department of Homeland Security. And the men who were present were Indiana Governor Mike Pence, Indiana Attorney General Greg Zoeller, former Governor Mitch Daniels, who's now Purdue University president, 3 corporate executives, one from Cargill, one from Roche, and one from Lilly. It's spelled R-O-C-H-E. It's in Indianapolis. They have a big office in Indianapolis where this corporate executive works, right off of 69. There were 14 CIA present, 7 FBI, 3 DARPA, 12 from the Indianapolis Municipal Police Department, and 18 from the Indiana State Police, 14 from the NSA, and 5 from the TSA. There were also 9 Army generals present, 3 Air Force males, and 2 Secret Service. In the United States House of Congress, Indiana Representatives Todd Young, Marlin Stutzman, and Larry Bucshon. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name. And then 3 members of the Indiana State House of Representatives, Michael Aylesworth, Brian Bosma, and Mike Braun were there. 14 Indiana State Senators, Jim Banks, Roderick Bray, Mike Delph, Ron Alting, Doug Eckerty, Ron Grooms, Brandt Hershman, David Long, Jim Merritt, Ryan Mishler, Brent Steele, and Brent Waltz, and R. Michael Young, Pete Miller. And there were also 3 mayors there. I didn't have time to research who they were. Whitley County Sheriff Mark Gatton was there, along with 3 other sheriffs from Indiana. 3 Bush clones, former U.S. Senator, child rapist and child murderer Rick Santorum was there. And the rest of these men were from Army Special Ops. And Army Special Ops is basically doing the exact same work as the CIA, training people to commit crimes and all sorts of mind control. It's basically what 79% of the United States military is under mind control. Okay, and these 21 children who were murdered, a 3-year-old Korean boy was murdered by Brian Bosma. A 3-year-old Brazilian boy was murdered by Mike Pence. And these are during rape. What they do is they love to choke the children to death while they're raping them, and because they're all Luciferians and Satanists, and they love for the child to die at the same moment that they ejaculate into the child. Child number 3 was a 3-year-old Brazilian girl, and she was murdered by the Indiana State Police Superintendent. The 4th child was a 3-year-old African girl, and she was murdered by Indiana State Senator Brent Waltz. A 3-year-old Chinese girl was murdered by George Herbert Walker Bush clone number 57. A 4-year-old Korean boy was murdered by a Cargill executive. A 4-year-old Korean girl was murdered by an Indiana State policeman. A 4-year-old African girl was murdered by Mitch Daniels. A 4-year-old African girl was murdered by a CIA agent that lives in Indianapolis that has a long history of raping and murdering children with Mike Pence. There are actually 2 of them. And the other one killed a 5-year-old African girl. A 5-year-old Brazilian girl was murdered by the Indiana State Police. A 5-year-old Cantonese boy was murdered by Indiana State Senator Roderick Bray during rape. A 5-year-old Chinese boy was murdered by the Indiana State Police. A 5-year-old African boy was murdered by Indiana State Senator Mike Delph. A 6-year-old Vietnamese girl was also murdered by the Indiana State Police. A 6-year-old Japanese girl was murdered by an officer from the Indianapolis Municipal Police Department. A 6-year-old African boy was murdered by an NSA executive. A 6-year-old Chinese girl was murdered by this Indiana State Police, and also a 7-year-old Chinese girl was murdered by the Indiana State Police. A 7-year-old African boy was murdered by another officer of the Indianapolis Municipal Police Department, and an 8-year-old Brazilian boy was murdered by Rick Santorum during rape. All these children were murdered while these filthy, low-life criminals raped them. And I wanted to do, like I said, it was 421 children brought in on Friday. And but I like to, since I'm from Indiana, do a separate report for the children that are raped and murdered here. The reason I do this is out of respect for the children, because I guess most people on the planet Earth think children are nothing more than trash, and they all deserve to be raped and murdered and then thrown into the garbage. Most of the children that are gang raped and murdered in the My Lab child trafficking operation are processed into hamburger meat, which they call pink slime, and it's added. Cargill is a company that adds these children into the meat supply. And my spirit guides had told me the other day that the executives of Halliburton pretty much eat humans for every meal. There are other places serving humans, McDonald's, Burger King, and there's a major, another major company in Illinois. I think their corporate headquarters are in Illinois. Here I have their name right here. It's, I believe, in the suburbs, west suburbs, Deerfield, Illinois. It's Mondelez. It's spelled Mondeles, Mondelez International. And they are, I don't know where they're getting, probably from war crimes or wherever they get all these people from, but Mondelez isn't putting children who are raped and murdered into the food. That's operation is held by Cargill. And some of these children are just raped hundreds of times. Well, 21 children raped 367 times. That's quite a few. That's quite a few, and I wish more people cared about this. But something happened today that was really good. And yesterday, more bombs were confiscated. They tried to set off 2 bombs in Bakersfield, California. This is just after they tried to set off 3 other bombs in Los Angeles. The 3 bombs they put in, the CIA, 2 CIA agents tried to detonate. They would have murdered 15 million people. And the 2 bombs that were confiscated yesterday were projected to kill 7 million. It was this new chemical weapon of mass destruction created here in the United States. And when we humans would breathe in the smoke created by this bomb, it would burn our bodies from the inside out. And I really appreciate, thank you for your prayers. I really do appreciate that, and so do the children. You know, I get comments from children quite a few times from heaven. And luckily, all children have made it to heaven that go through this horror. And thank you for doing what you can to help bring this horrible operation to an end. It's unfortunate that the United States of America has so much blood on its hands. It's probably the worst war criminal country or corporation, in the universe. Nobody murders more people than the United States of America, the most disgusting, vile murderers in the universe. Thank you. Have a nice day.